A lot has changed since I started this channel. I haven't got hundreds of millions of followers, obviously. I have, however, progressed in longboarding, at least a little bit since I started. I've moved to France permanently and I now have a little baby, which are pretty big life changes. And I'm going to discuss my skate setup, how I set it up. It's a little bit complicated, and how recently I've been using ChatGPT to help with that, and why I'm bothering to set up a new setup at all. So France. I'm in the southeast of France, and everyone thinks that it's fantastic weather here all the time, but it's a complete lie. It's actually been raining and pouring recently. However, it's been nice for like the last 3 or 4 days. So I've been making the most of it. I've been out skating, climbing, spending time in my camper van, but the weather has just turned again, and today it's actually been hailing. As if the rain wasn't bad enough, it's decided to hail. Anyway, recently it's been quite cold in the house as well. It's been super cold. Unlike houses in England, New Zealand, Germany, whatever, there just isn't good central heating. If I did put insulation in the floor, it would just be too hot in the summer. Because here in the southeast of France, it genuinely does get very hot in summer, uncomfortably hot. Anyway, it's not meant to be a video about the weather or renovation. It's meant to be a video about ChatGPT and my new setup. I live about 10 minutes away from my local skate spot, which is probably where I'm going to be testing out this new setup, and as soon as the weather is good enough. And yeah, well, recently I have the impression of spending more time tinkering with my setup than actually skating. So this is the board. It's a Hackbrett longboard, which is actually a gift from a friend, Samuel, who I met and skated with for the first time here in France at Col du Soir. For him, it was the first time he'd ever skated with another skater, and I just told him to attend lots of skate events and that he'd learn a lot, which he did. And he's had incredible progression in the last year or two. And he's also single-handedly started the Freiburg skate crew in Germany, which is now, I think, one of the biggest skate crews in Germany. They recently have meetups, film nights, and get beginners involved to train them up to skate, which is amazing. So he's also been on stage and got the attention of the outdoor industry, and again welcomed beginners to join his skate crew and get the word out about longboarding in general. So just sort of an evangelist of longboarding, skating downhill. So Samuel's originally a climber, and a pretty good climber at that, who used to attend competitions and things. So it's no wonder that he's got a natural talent for learning new things like skating. Anyway, I can't claim to have much credit for his success with skating, but he seems to have a fond memory of us skating together. So he just gave me this board, which is awesome. And I don't usually get given things, so I'm pretty happy when I do. The idea with this channel was to document my progression in longboarding, because I wasn't particularly amazing to begin with. I was watching videos like Crunchie's videos with Troy Pemberton, and I thought how amazing they were and how beautiful New Zealand is. And I'd already travelled in New Zealand, which played a big part into why I got into skating when I was living in New Zealand. And that's where I really started downhill skating. So thankfully I'm a better skater now than I used to be, because I was pretty terrible when I started, and my progression has been actually fairly slow, I would say. But I still love it, and I still get out to my local skate spot, which, as I say, is only 10 minutes away, and I hitchhike my way back up to the top a lot. So I think YouTube is a good place to share information like this, or it's a fun place to share information like this. And maybe it's a little creative outlet for me besides photography, or could be. So what board am I on at the moment? Well, it's an Aphyllanthe, which is thanks to a friend, Martin and Gabby and Theo. It's wood, resin and carbon fiber. It's got a little subtle W in the back for placing your feet whilst you're tucking or on toe side. And I've actually drilled more holes in it than the recommended amount. Which we might see. You might see that. So due to the rocker on the board, actually, or this kind of micro drop thing, it starts going up, which actually does change the angle of the trucks on the back a bit. So according to this, I'm on 15 degrees on the back, but it's not really the case, which you might be able to see on the video. So some of you might have recognized that I'm on the Valkyrie Mark IIIs, which are great. I love them. But of course, I'd rather be on the most recent version of the Valkyries with the bearing in the back trucks. I have a riptide footstop, just like most people. And I have little bits of torque just stuck on the board. You can kind of see that I've got this stuck on the back here. So I like the torque block. It's a slide perfect torque block, a slight angle for my back foot. I'm goofy. And then for my toe side, I've got it at a slightly different angle as well, just to get some good grip on that and to avoid monkey toeing. And you might have noticed I've got like a tiny bit of torque right in the front as well to help with that, to just help feel locked in general. So the advantage of these Valkyries is the adjustable base plate in the back. Although something I might add on the new setup is a small D-wedge on the front. So I mentioned I'm on 49, my front trucks, and a printed wedge, 3D printed wedge on the front can get me from 49 degrees down to about 45. So this, I've measured the angle of this, and this is 4 degrees. And this is what Samuel was using the other day when we skated together. So yeah, whilst Samuel was here, we were skating and climbing for one day, and I really liked his setup. He was on this Hackbrett board and had a weight on it and different trucks and mag wheels, but it felt pretty amazing. But it's got loads of flex, which is pretty unique. I mean, it's a strange idea to have precision trucks and a board that has loads of flex, but anyway. When I set up this board, the first thing I've noticed that the wheelbase options are actually not the same. Now, I measure wheelbase from these ones right here, these holes, to these holes here. Some people measure axle to axle, but then if you're making decks, it depends on the trucks, etc. Anyway, I like this system here. So when looking at this board, one of the first thing I noticed is that the wheelbase options don't go tiny. I've got a longer wheelbase option on my current Aphyllanthe setup, but as I mentioned, I re-drilled it. And there's a torque block here on the back, which might stop me from placing the trucks just about anywhere, but it's removable. And this is a torque block from Happy Boards, which is 3D printed as well. You can just go online and download their 3D models and print them, which I guess I'll link to in the description. With my setups, I have added a weight, and then I've taken off a weight, and then I've added a weight back on again. This has got a couple of holes for adding a weight at the front. There are advantages and disadvantages to that. It helps your wheels brake into the slide smoothly and break traction, and then smoothly regain traction again. So it's quite agreeable in terms of sensations, but if you go around a corner and you need that grip, then you might slide a bit too much, but not having the weight on will make your board feel a bit more snappy. So ChatGPT then, a long while back I read an article from Nelson Boards which explained how changing the wheelbase and changing the angle can give you the same turning radius, but you're obliged to change or de-wedge the back trucks. Normally, if your trucks are closer together, then your turning ratio will be more intense. You're more easily able to turn sharply. However, what if you don't want that feeling exactly? What if that feels twitchy to you? Well, you can just change your angle in the back. If you have trucks that allow you to change that angle in the back, and if you don't, well, you could just use a 3D printed or wooden wedged riser like this one. The problem is I'm not really very good at maths. And whilst ChatGPT is not famously incredible for maths, I'm sure that it's much better than me. And in fact, I've actually used ChatGPT in my recent setups when changing the wheelbase, specifically so that I don't have a massive shock when changing my wheelbase. Why would I want to change it? Well, I like my feet to be above the trucks, and this is what I wanted, but I also wanted the same turning radius. And that's where the article from Nelson Longboards comes in, and I'll link to that article in the comments as well. So what I've done is I've pasted this info into ChatGPT and then asked it, okay, what would happen if I changed the wheelbase to another wheelbase? Now, for anyone who's not sure how to measure the wheelbase, what I do is I measure the two closest bolts on the trucks. This is fairly standard, but some people measure wheel to wheel or axle to axle, which will give you a different reading. But as long as it's usable to you and you can understand it, then you know what to do in terms of wedging, de-wedging, changing your angles, etc. As long as you're consistent with how you measure that. So you can just copy and paste this in, and I'll show you what I've said to ChatGPT in a little bit. But with the new setup, the shortest wheelbase option is currently about 48 centimeters, which is longer than my current wheelbase. And I'm hesitant to drill it because, not because of the camber, the rocker, whatever. It's more rocker really, but it's because of these wheel wells, and I want to actually use those wheel wells. So I might end up on a longer wheelbase, which could help for stability, but my feet will be less over the trucks. But yeah, we'll see what I do with that. I think I'll probably just go for the shortest wheelbase. So I've probably blabbed on a little bit too much, and I'm going to just take the trucks off of my old setup and put them on the new ones, trying to keep the ride height the same. I've got a spirit level, and I'm probably just going to do that in this room. I know that the floor in here is level thanks to my renovation efforts in this cold 1960s house. I know it wasn't the case when I moved in, but anyway, I just want to make sure that the board is level and that the ride height is equal, that one truck at the front isn't higher than the one on the back if I'm adding a little wedged riser on the truck to de-wedge the angle from 49 degrees to 45 degrees. I don't want that to be any higher. So I decided on 25 degrees instead of 30 on the back, and ChatGPT actually recommended 27.5 degrees on the back, and I'll show you how that's worked out. We can see here it understood the stuff from Nelson boards, and then it broke it down using reason with this maths right here. And it started making decisions. So I asked about bushings and things as well, although I think this is something that's just better off by feeling, really. So what I've asked it last time is I want to go from a 46 centimeter wheelbase to a 48 centimeter wheelbase. I will adjust my front trucks to 45 degrees. What angle should I aim for in the rear trucks? So it's using the same maths that it used before. Knowing that the front angle is 49, but then for the new setup it's going to be 48 centimeters and then 45 instead of 49. So it's calculated that, and it thinks that I should aim for a rear truck angle of about 27.5. So 27.5 isn't really an option for the Valkyrie trucks, but you know, we could go for 30 if we want something less responsive, or 25 if we want something a bit more responsive. Sorry, the other way around. If we go for 30, we're going to be more responsive. So yeah, this is what I'm using for now. Of course, I tried skating with a different turning radius first. I left it on 15 degrees on the back, and for a while I tried to freeride, but it felt terrible. I'm really glad I thought about changing it back to the angle so that these trucks feel familiar. So there's a lot to be said for riding a setup that feels familiar. Whether you're used to a lot of lean or not, it's probably best to just not stray too far from what you know, especially for downhill. When I first went out to test this board, I forgot my shoes. I forgot my usual skate shoes. So there was a moment that I needed to foot brake to let a car overtake. And I'm not sure whether then it was the board flex, but it vibrated as I foot braked. That also could be because my foot was well over the front trucks. So it could be because I didn't have my normal shoes on as well. But that might be one of the things to having a flexible deck. There are a few moments where I think I might have flipped the board, but it flexed and rebounded, and somehow maybe I even got saved from falling, as if it kind of flexed into the slide and then back out again. This is a very strange feeling. And it's hard to know whether it's really the flex or whether it's just the rest of the setup. Because despite the change with the ChatGPT recommendations, it's still, there's still a lot of changes really with this board. So I didn't have this the other day, but you might have noticed that I've added a weight onto the board, which is a bit of a DIY weight. The torque block feels really good. I'm happy to have a bigger torque block than before. I think this is a really good positive change. I'm really happy about the D-wedge as well in the front, this thing. And it feels like maybe I can hold stand-up slides a little bit longer, but I haven't been skating loads and loads. Again, today it's raining, although we've had some nice weather over the last few days again. So it's April the 13th, I think. So one thing that was a bit disconcerting maybe with the Flex is that it just behaves differently. And of course it's a brand new setup, so riding it for the first time feels somewhat unfamiliar and is always a bit strange. I did have a moment where I just had like a strange wobble or maybe like early hookup, and again hard to tell whether it's really the board or something else. I think the ultimate test of whether this setup is better or not would just to be to recreate the same conditions on my Aphyllanthe setup and even have both setups running side by side, maybe with someone else with the exact same Aphyllanthe, although they're pretty custom, each one's pretty custom, and then test the two boards side by side. I think this board would be great for someone transitioning from cruising into downhill, and it's got me thinking about, well, can I introduce people more into downhill who are already cruising a little bit using this board perhaps. So it still has the flex and it's still comfortable for pushing around, unlike traditional downhill decks, which aren't exactly made for cruising around. But then this isn't necessarily made for going super fast. Like if you get speed wobble, like, I wonder if that could be a problem. And honestly, it's a beautiful board. I really love this wooden look. It's very cool. We've got our own skate crew here in Montpelier. It's called the Montpelier Wheely Gang, a little French English play on words. We spend quite a few weekends skating together, and we've even got an association now. So I'm wearing one of our association t-shirts that I helped design. I've been thinking about trying the setup with other trucks. I really like the idea of having something quite different, and a downhill setup with flex is definitely different. Still, I can't help but feel like a stiff deck may offer more predictability. I'll end with some images from my recent skates, and who knows, maybe I'll do a part 2 to this video. Let me know if you found it interesting, like, subscribe, all that stuff. And if you're watching from New Zealand, well, I miss you. come to France, skate some events around here. I know I should be more consistent with this channel, but I'm trying to keep it creative, I guess. Ciao.